All right, I think we are live. I've curated. Cool. All right. So, very good afternoon, everybody. It's past 12, so it's the afternoon today, right? Welcome to the lesson for the day. Today, I've curated another reading comprehension for us to go over, for us to practice. Hi, Soumya. Welcome to the class. Um, right. So, before we begin with the lesson, allow me to give you a very quick introduction to the Unacademy portal. Unacademy is India's largest learning platform today when it comes to preparing for any sort of competition exam. We are here specifically for management exams. This is the Crack Management Exams YouTube channel where we talk about exams like CAT, GMAT, NMAT, ZAT, and the likes. I am Prankur Arora. I am going to be your trainer, your coach on this journey. I've been in this industry for the past couple of years. I've also had the opportunity to consult with various organizations like Becton Dickinson, uh, Interglobe, Marico, and the likes. Right. I'm also a published author. I wrote this book called "It's Not Funny," and it's a work of satirical fiction. If you're fond of reading, be sure to check it out. And I hold advanced certifications in facilitation from an American organization called Leadership Management International. Apart from that, I run a startup called Tamasha Entertainment where we curate all sorts of experiences. So, yeah, that's pretty much about me. Welcome aboard this journey of learning where I'll be taking you through various concepts pertaining to verbal ability and the reading comprehension portions of these exams. Right, so there are quite a lot of features that add to the pedagogy of an academy. Some of those features include, daily live classes, live tests and quizzes. All the courses on the platform are pretty much structured, and with one subscription, you get unlimited access to anything and everything. These are some of the educators that you'll find on the platform. All of them are highly credible people who've successfully mentored various aspirants into top tier business schools. You can experience live classes for free and start your learning journey with us. New batches, new courses, they keep on going live on the platform, so you can enroll in for them. And language is never a barrier. You know why? Because we've got educators who teach in vernacular languages as well. And if you're not as comfortable with English, we are very much sure, we are 100% sure that you'll be able to find an educator who's teaching in a regional language that you're comfortable with. Plus, you design your own schedule, right? You have the complete ownership of your own schedule. You decide the courses you want to enroll into. You decide the educators you want to be learning from, and therefore you personalize your own schedule. All we do is we send you those notifications and reminders so that you don't really miss any of the classes that you've set your eyes on. Plus, with us you can start learning from anytime, anywhere, right? um, as I was saying, all kinds of interaction on the platform happens in real time. All the discussions, all the doubt clearing sessions, everything happens in real time on the platform. Plus, we have this feature where, the questions that we ask you answers for, we conduct polls on them. So you participate in live polls during a class on the platform, and then you compete for a place on the leaderboard, right? Plus, we give you detailed reports and analysis of your performance in the tests and the quizzes that we conduct. And the idea is those quizzes and tests are on the same pattern for the exam that you're preparing for. What we do is we give you in-depth insights into your performance. For example, your score topic wise, the time you're spending on every question, stuff like that actually helps you develop perspective about your learning journey. What's going well, what's not going so well, do we need to do some course correction, right? Stuff like that. Plus, all the class notes are made available to you once the class is over if you subscribe to the platform. These are some of the subscription models that an academy follows. You can clearly see that as the time period of the subscription goes up, the cost of the subscription per month is going down dramatically, right? So I would recommend that you opt in for a longer learning journey. Having said that, if you use my name Prankur, uh, Prankur, for any of the subscriptions that you go for, you get an extra 10% off. Having said that, let's begin the lesson for the day. We are starting with a reading comprehension. Uh, Wait, yeah, right. So just read this comprehension and, as usual, give me a summary for the same. What is this paragraph talking about? Right. So, let's discuss this paragraph. Let's discuss this passage, the beginning of this comprehension. What does it say? It comes as no surprise that there is little consensus among economists who study the prospects for the new European Central Bank. Right? So, we are talking about what? We're talking about the ECB. So, what is the subject of this passage? What is the subject of this paragraph? The subject, that is the what or the why, or rather the who. What or the who of this paragraph? What is the what or the who? It is the ECB. Right? That is the ECB. Right. Figure out what is the why now, or the how. Right? That is the subject. Yes, this is the subject. Now figure out what is the, this is the subject. You need to figure out, the main point. What is the main idea or the main point of these paragraphs? Take 60 seconds, hit me up with your answers. Right. So let's check that out. What or the why or the how? Right. What are they saying? What are they? How are they talking about? Subject is ECB. Yes, we know that. What is the main point? What is the main point? What is the passage, the paragraph talking about? Some are overwhelmingly enthusiastic about the ECB's potential to eliminate exchange rate currency fluctuations among its 11 member economies, while others are convinced that cultural differences and inevitable squabbles over monetary policy doom the central bank to failure. What is the main point? Main point primary goal is price stability, but um, right. The idea of the first paragraph, the main point of the first paragraph is that some are overwhelmingly enthusiastic about its potential to eliminate fluctuations. Others are not so convinced. So maybe it could be a flop or it could be a success. Right? The author is not very sure about that right now. The author is saying either it could be a success or it could be a big flop. How about this one? How about the second paragraph? The pessimists have a valid point. Now the author is expressing his opinion, right? The pessimists have a valid point is the author's opinion. This is the author's opinion. The ECB's primary goal, as specified by the Maastricht Treaty, is to bring about price stability within its area of sovereignty. This stability, however, is predicated on reducing the current incongruity of prices throughout the region. So the main idea of the first paragraph, as I've written here, Soumya, is that either look at this. What is the author saying? Some are overwhelmingly enthusiastic about ECB's potential to eliminate exchange rate currency fluctuations among its 11 member economies, while others are convinced that cultural differences and inevitable squabbles over monetary policy doom the central bank to failure. So what is the author saying? The author is saying either the ECB could be flop or ECB could be a success. In the second paragraph, the author goes one step ahead and expresses his opinion, saying that the pessimists have a valid point. Here, he said there are some optimists, some people are optimistic, some people are pessimistic. In the second paragraph, author clears his opinion by saying that the pessimists seem to have a valid point. The ECB's primary goal, as specified by the Maastricht Treaty, is to bring about price stability. Here, Anushka, I agree with you that the primary goal here, or rather the main point of the second paragraph, is the primary goal. Right? Now, what are they saying? They are saying that this stability, however, is predicated on reducing the current incongruity of prices throughout the region. Currently, though, there are too many cultural and financial variables that prevent prices from coming into alignment anytime soon. So, the second paragraph is again telling us what? That primary goal is, price stability. And then they tell us why price stability has not happened yet. Right? So, this is paragraph paragraphs 1 and 2, right? We know for a fact that the subject for both paragraphs is the ECB. Main point of the first paragraph is that either ECB could be a flop or a success. Main point of the second paragraph is that author expresses his opinion by saying that the pessimists seem to have a valid point. Why? Because ECB's primary aim is price stability, and then the author tells us why price stability has not happened yet. All right, let's move on to the next paragraphs. This is paragraph 3. Again, tell me what is the subject and what is the main point. Prices stay lower to accommodate weaker buying power. Okay, let's go through this paragraph. Okay, Anushka, let's go through this paragraph. Thank you for participating. For a start, the prices of many products sold in Europe already vary from country to country, right? So what are they building on? They're building upon the last these lines, right? Why they're telling us here how prices, they're not coming into alignment anytime soon, right? And then they're telling us why that is, right? For a start, the prices of many products sold in Europe already vary from country to country by large margins. The average cost of a pair of blue jeans is 34% higher in Germany than it is in Italy. Now they're drawing a comparison between Germany and Italy. Some reasons for this can be remedied through legislation, okay? If Germany were to repeal its law prohibiting supermarkets from stocking aspirin on their shelves, for example, aspirin prices might come in line with the rest of the European Union. But most price differentials derive from seemingly immutable standards of living. Personal incomes in Spain and Portugal are well below the European average, as they've been for decades. Thus, prices stay lower to accommodate weaker buying power. And since Scandinavian countries show no sign of adopting the high demand for coffee products that exists in France and Italy, coffee prices will remain much higher in southern Europe than in the north. Right. So, Anushka, when you say prices stay lower to accommodate weaker buying power, that I don't think that is the main point. Understand the meaning of the passage, right? What is this paragraph about? पिछले पैराग्राफ में they were telling us how prices are not coming into alignment. Here they are giving us examples, right? What are they talking about? They're talking about blue jeans. They're talking about what? They're talking about aspirin, right? They're talking about personal incomes, right? They're talking about personal disposable incomes, personal incomes. Then they're talking about coffee, right? So there are so many examples they've given us about how prices are not in alignment when it comes to these products or when it comes to personal incomes in different countries. Because these things are not in alignment, that is why prices are not in alignment. Just think about it, no? For example, if you were to go to France and if you were to buy something near the Eiffel Tower versus going to Germany and buying something there. Right now we have euro, right? But earlier we had different currencies. For example, when you go to London, you have pounds, but when you go to France you have francs. At the same time, both countries also accept euros now, right? Earlier that was not the case. So that is what they're talking about. All right, does that make sense? The main idea is that this paragraph is giving us what? This paragraph is giving us examples. Main point is what? Main point is examples, a lot of them. Okay, can I move on to the next paragraph now? Cool. Again, the same thing. Give me the subject and the main point. Survival of euro as a currency. Is that the main idea? All right, let's look at that. What is the passage telling us? Until now, Europe's different currencies have done well to divert consumers' attention from these price differentials. Okay. But now the Europe has adopted its one own currency, the euro. Europeans are more likely to seek out the best prices regardless of geography. This could mean depressed localized economies of scale. Many countries will not recover from this situation in the short term. Fortunately, for the ECB's architects, there are two extraordinary financial models to study and replicate: the German Bundesbank and America's Federal Reserve Board. Each country within the European Union, regardless of its population or the size of its gross domestic product, will be represented equally in the. All right. So till here, I agree that basically the main idea is survival of euro as a currency. They're talking about euro's fighting chance, euro's chances, right? And then they're telling us what? They're telling us that uh, Europeans will still they will still try to seek the best prices, and this could mean depressed localized economies. Many countries will not recover. Again, here the author is what? The author is pessimistic, right? The author is very pessimistic here. Whereas in this paragraph, Anushka, can you tell me the main point of this one now, the final one? What is the main point here? The two models to replicate. So, um, we know for a fact that here the subject is again ECB, right? The subject is ECB. The main point, one is, sure, you think that there are two models to replicate, but the main point, if you've if you were to pay attention to the last few lines, right? Look at the last few lines. Now, here the tone of the author changes. The author begins this paragraph by saying, fortunately. Remember, here the author is pessimistic. Here, the author is giving us examples as to why it might not work. Here again, the author is pessimistic by telling us that, you know what, even getting euro as currency did not work for us. Here, in contrast, the author is in positive, the author is, basically talking in a very positive tone. Fortunately, for the ECB's architects, there are two extraordinary financial models to study and replicate: the German Bundesbank, and America's Federal Reserve Board. Each country within the EU, within the European Union, regardless of its population or the size of its GDP, will be represented equally in ECB's Governing Council, which will dictate the policies that the various national central banks will implement. As long as the lines of communication remain open and country representatives keep an open mind toward what may become a radical overhaul within European commerce, the euro and the ECB have a fighting chance. So, Anushka, here I think the main idea, sure, there are two models to replicate, and here what is the author telling us? The author is telling us that maybe it could work, right? Maybe it could work. Now the author is changing his tone. The entire comprehension, the author was telling us why it will be a flop, why it will not work. The author gave us many examples, but here the author is saying maybe it will work, right? So this is how this RC is ending. Let's solve the questions one by one. Primary purpose of the passage. So when we are talking about primary purpose, Anushka, uh, primary purpose is basically why did the author write this, right? Why did the author write this passage? That is what the primary purpose is. C. Uh, Provide support for the theory that Europe's transition to a central bank will have many obstacles. I think C is the perfect answer. Good job. Let's look at why the other options are wrong, though. Compare the ECB to other financial bodies. This was a comparison wasn't happening. It was the last paragraph was telling us that ECB has two models to try and replicate, right? So there was no comparison happening, and that was not the primary purpose at all. Assert that European countries that have not yet embraced the euro are destined to do so before too long. Again, this is not what the passage is telling us at all, not the primary reason as to why the author would write it either. Enumerate several examples of the constantly changing. See, the author was not talking about the global financial climate. The author was talking about what? The author was talking about the European climate. Europe is what the author was talking about. So we'll eliminate D. E. Prove that the ECB will never bring about the price stability on which its survival so dearly depends. See, again, this is kind of very, very negative, right? Very, very negative. This is very, very negative of the author to say, right? And we always, Anushka, make sure that you always avoid, extreme answers when it comes to RCs. Unless mentioned in the passage, avoid extreme answers. All right. This one says prove that the ECB will never bring about the price stability. See, the author was telling us why it might fail, but finally the author also ended on a positive note, on a slightly positive note. That is why we'll eliminate option E. C is the perfect answer. Good job. Next question. In the passage, the author is primarily concerned with which of the following? This is an evaluation question. You are evaluating the passage to tell us what was the author trying to do. All right. You think option D. All right. Let's look at all the options one by one, comparing two different approaches to resolving. No conflict was mentioned, so we'll eliminate this right away. Expressing dismay over a poorly reasoned conclusion. Was there a poorly reasoned conclusion? There was no poorly reasoned conclusion in the entire passage. Presenting information and offering different. See, information was presented, yes, but there no different ways of interpretation were basically talked about. There was only one interpretation, which is the author's interpretation, right? So that is why we'll eliminate C. Describing a problem that will not be solved easily is more like it. I think you've gotten this right as well. Very well done. Defending an established policy, the author was not trying to defend anything. There was no policy in discussion either. Problem that will not be solved easily. Problem, what is the problem? The problem is of price stability, right? And the entire time the author was talking about how it could be a failure, but eventually the author was like, you know what, just give it a shot. There are two three things that you can do to probably try and be successful at it, right? So D looks to be the correct answer. Good job. Question 3. Which of the following best describes the organization of the passage? Right? Now you have to talk about the structure of the passage. C or D? All right, all right. Two historical backgrounds are compared, no historical backgrounds are compared. A problem is identified, discussed, and resolved. So, problem is identified, yes. A problem is discussed, yes, but no problem is resolved. There was no resolution, right? A theory is discussed and evidence is introduced to condemn it. So, again, Anushka, as I mentioned, when it comes to RCs, see, condemn is a very extreme word. It's a very, just give me a moment. Right. So, as I was saying, condemn is an extreme term. It is an extreme term. All right. So, we want to avoid extreme terms. Theories discussed, yes. Evidence is introduced, yes. But evidence is not introduced to condemn it. Evidence is introduced to, you know, figure out the problems, figure out why it could be a failure. At the same time, understand that the author ended the passage on positive note, right? The author ended the passage on a positive note. Okay. That is why I'll do away with C as well. When it comes to option D, a paradox is described and one side is shown to be more dominant than the other. What is a paradox? Paradox is a self contradictory statement, right? Paradox is not described. A debate is introduced, yes, right? And supporting evidence for both sides is presented. The author told us, gave us examples as to why it could be a failure, why price stability is not happening, why euro is not working. At the same time, the author is giving us support for the other side as well, that there are two banks that you can try and emulate, right? If you keep an open mind, right? If you keep the lines of communication open, maybe you could succeed. So a debate is introduced and supporting evidence is presented for the both sides. Okay, that is why I'll go with option E and not with either C or D. All right, does that make sense, Anushka? Can I move on to the next question? All right, next question. Question 4. Which of the following best describes the relation of the last paragraph to the passage as a whole? Right, we all remember what happened in the last paragraph. The author, what did the author do? The author started by saying, fortunately, this is all possible as well. This is what the author ended the last paragraph with. Okay, see again. All right, let's look at your answer. It adds some positive points to an otherwise negative outlook. Best represents the last paragraph. I agree. I very much wholeheartedly agree. It advances an argument. No, no argument was advanced. Outlines a process. No outlining was done. Reinforces the theory. Nope, no reinforcement was happening. Rather, the author was presenting opposite points. It poses a question. No question was posed. Positive points were introduced. Yes. Good job. Question number 5. The author's attitude towards the success of the ECB can best be described as. What do you think, Anushka? What do you think describes the author's attitude? This is a tone question, right? What is the author's tone throughout the passage? C. All right. Let's look at all the options. This is what? This is a. Sorry. Yes. This is a tone question. Was the author indifferent? If the author had been indifferent, the author will not would not have given his opinions. The author, in the second paragraph itself, the author said, I agree with the pessimism. Right? If the author were indifferent, the author would not have written the passage. Was the author hostile? The author was negative, but the author was not hostile. Hostility is violently negative. Right? Skepticism, yes. The author, throughout the passage, the author was like, this is why it won't happen. These are the examples. This is why it won't happen. This is why it will be a failure. But eventually, in the end, the author said, you know what? There are still chances of it being success. Right? So the author was skeptical about it. Definitely, definitely, yes. I think you've gotten the right answer. Amusement, the author was not amused. The author was not in admiration either. All right. Good job. Next question. The author most probably mentions the Bundesbank in order to do what? Remember, there was a German bank that was mentioned that we could ECB could try and emulate Federal Reserve and the Bundesbank. Why does the author mention it? Okay, Anushka, I see your answer to this question as well, or that was the previous question, because you gave C as your answer, two different timestamps, 45 and 46. 12:45 and 12:46. So is C your answer to this question as well? D. All right. Suggests an alternative composition. No alternative composition was suggested at all. Compare its fiscal policies. Fiscal policies were not discussed. No comparison was happening. Provide an example. Yes. To which ECB will never measure up. Again, very, very extreme. Example was provided for ECB to try and emulate, right? Which D is doing, indicate that there are other established fiscal entities for the ECB to emulate. That is why the author gave the example of the Federal Reserve as well as the Bundesbank. All right, good job. Okay. Urge the German government to ease its restrictions on supermarkets. No, no urging was happening because of Bundesbank. Question number 7. The passage most clearly implies which of the following? This is what? This is an inference question. All right. Apologies. Yes. Right. So, what is the inference? What do you know? See, when it comes to inference questions, the idea is which one of these options is true, right? Which option, which option has to be true based on the info in the passage. So one of these options has to be true, has to be true based on what the passage told us. Option number one. What is option one telling us? Countries whose economies are depressed by the price wars following the arrival of the euro will eventually rebound and prosper. What is option one saying? That these countries will rebound and prosper. Whereas, if you remember, what was this passage telling us? This passage was telling us that, you know what, this could mean this could mean depressed localized economies of scale. Many countries will not recover. See, what are they telling us? They are telling us countries will not recover. Whereas, what is the option telling us? The option is telling us these countries will eventually rebound and prosper. So, how can this be true? Alright, so I'll eliminate option A. Option B. The average German or Italian has more disposable income than does the average Port. See, I remember the paragraph telling us about the disposable income of, the purchasing power of Portuguese and Spain. There was a comparison there, but there was nowhere in the passage were they telling us that in Germany people have more income than Portuguese and Spain. All right, so I'll eliminate this as well. Were it not for the Maastricht Treaty, the ECB would never have come. See, again, they were mentioning Maastricht Treaty, and I'll take you back to the passage for that. But was there a cause effect relationship? Was there a cause effect relationship? I guess not. I guess not. Right here is where they mention the Maastricht Treaty. The ECB's primary goal, as specified by the Maastricht Treaty, is to bring about price stability. Right? That is the primary goal. But is there a cause effect relationship? Is there a cause effect relationship? There isn't. The passage has not told us anything about that. The arrival of the euro has not solved the problem of the price disparity in Europe. This is something I think we can draw as an inference from the passage. Why? Because now what are they telling us? They're telling us that, but now Europe has adopted its one currency, the euro. Europeans are more likely to seek out the best price regardless of geography. Still, people are going to haggle and seek out the best price. That has not solved the problem of price disparity at all. All right, that is why D looks to be like the most uh, viable inference. E tells us governing council may have to alter its plan of equal representation to account for the contributions of each country to Europe's overall GDP. Then again, is our did the passage tell us that? The passage only told us that we'll have to have a governing council, right? Look at this. Each country within the EU, regardless of its population or the size of its GDP, will be represented equally in ECB's governing council, which will dictate the policies that the various national central banks will implement. Right? This is what they're telling us. So how can you draw an inference that says that it may have to alter its plan? So I'll eliminate option E as well. Alright, so that is why D looks to be like the most viable option, the most logical explanation here. Okay, so guys, with this, we've come to the end of our lesson for the day. With this, we've come to the end of our lesson for the day. Thank you for joining in. Tomorrow, I'll be doing a verbal drill where I'll be taking you through lots and lots of questions pertaining to para jumbles, para summary, para completion, sentence correction, critical reasoning. We'll solve another comprehension as well. Tomorrow, I think we'll have like a 2 hour marathon class where we'll begin at 9:30 a.m. in the morning and we'll try to wrap up by 11:30. Right? So that is the schedule for tomorrow. Be sure to tune in. Take care, guys. Take care. Take care. Stay safe. Stay strong. Step out only if it's very, very necessary. Otherwise, don't. Right? So, yeah, that's pretty much about it. Thank you for attending the lesson for the day. Hope you gained a lot. Thanks. See you guys.